nervous because I'm here now.
Hey guys, welcome into another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm James Haskell, along with my co-host Glenn Martin, me and my shaky camera here. We're getting into the All-Pro list that was just released by of course, the NFL has published that list, and we'll get into the Ravens or Raven, the lone Raven that made it. Give him a shout out, and we'll talk about whether or not some people were snubbed and what we think of the list overall. So before we get into it, Glenn, and you tell us who our lone representative as a Baltimore Raven is. I want to give you guys a second to go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Make sure to turn on those notifications as we run through the playoffs. Give us a like, leave your comments. We'd love to interact with you guys. So go ahead and do all those things. But Glenn, who is our lone All-Pro?
So I think it was a little bit surprising because the Ravens, as many of you know, had 7 Pro Bowlers named in 2020. And I just want to quickly run down that list. Offensive tackle Orlando Brown Jr., defensive end Calais Campbell, cornerback Marlon Humphrey, outside linebacker Matthew Judon, fullback Pat Ricard, and kicker Justin Tucker. And finally, who represents the Ravens as the lone All-Pro, long snapper Morgan Cox is our only All-Pro to make the list. And I think some people were surprised to not see Justin Tucker on that list. Just to give people an idea, Jason Sanders, the kicker from the Miami Dolphins, made the All-Pro list ahead of Justin Tucker. Was that the most surprising one to you, Jimbo?
It was surprising, of course, until I looked up the statistics. He made 10 more field goals. His percentage, if Justin was hitting at an 89.7%, if I'm not mistaken, this guy was at 92 and change. So look, he deserved it. All you can go under the percentage. I know that Justin had some blocks in there, and you could say, well, he's asked to do more based on difficulty of kicks and the home field where he kicks at, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, all you can really do is take numbers. So I get it. While I would take Justin Tucker over anyone in the NFL without even thinking about it, because it's about clutch moments, and I think he's the best at it. I totally get it. And huge shout out to Morgan Cox, dude, getting it done. Look, he's an All-Pro, and didn't he miss a game this year?
Yeah, he had to for I believe COVID, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's surprising. It's always nice to see a long-standing Raven. Morgan Cox has been here for a long, long time, and that system that the Wolfpack has put together is, it's the best unit in the league in my opinion. I think, as good as Jason Sanders had, I mean, he had an incredible year. He made, like you said, 36 out of 39 attempted field goals, which is 92%. He made 8 out of 9 from 50 plus and didn't miss any of his 36 extra point attempts. So he made 10 more field goals than Tucker did and did it at a higher rate, as well as Tucker missing 1 of his 53 attempted extra points. And he was just 3 of 5 from 50 plus. So there's no doubt to me that Jason Sanders deserved it, had the better year. But it's just crazy to think that Justin Tucker doesn't have more All-Pros in his career, because I think everyone you ever ask or hear a pundit speak on it on TV, they all say Justin Tucker's not just the best in the league, he's the best they've ever seen kick a football. So a little surprising there. But oh well, not too bummed out. But were you expecting any of these other guys that I listed to make the Pro Bowl, or like a Marlon Humphrey or maybe a...
Yeah, I think the reason Marlon doesn't get it is because he doesn't get the sexy stats, if you will. While the knocked out, the fumbles are definitely stats that jump out at you. He doesn't have the interception numbers, but for me, I'm biased here. But I'm putting Marley. Why do I keep calling him Marley? Marlon in my All-Pro list. I have a bias towards the Ravens, but to me, he is by far and above the most complete corner in the NFL. I think he's the most physically imposing as far as availability goes. I mean, you could even argue that Jimmy might be more physically imposing than Marlon, but Jimmy has a hard time staying out there. So I think based on his tackling ability and his willingness to do so, along with his speed to keep up with some of these faster receivers, and then his ability to punch the ball out, he's just found a niche for himself. He said, well, look, I'm not going to get 10 interceptions, 8, 7, even 5 in a year, but I'm going to knock the ball out 8 times a year. So, which is to me just as valuable, because, as long as your team can pick it up, then shoot, we saw how nervous the Browns defenders were about that in one game. That guy, they had to give him a quick counseling session over there on the sideline. So, I was surprised about that one. One that you brought up that I want to ask you about. Were you surprised that Orlando Brown didn't make this list? Do you think that he was hurt by the fact that he had to switch?
Yeah, I think it definitely impacted his because I mean, I don't know. It's hard to argue that he's not just as good as a left tackle as he is a right, because we really haven't seen any drop off in play since Stanley's been out, which is crazy because he was, of course, last year's all pro left tackle. But when you look at the list of the guys he would have had to jump for that, David Bakhtiari, phenomenal season until the injury in Green Bay. So it's hard to argue that. And then Jack Conklin, who we knew would be a big boost to the Browns offensive line coming over from Tennessee. I mean, that guy, we always said, as long as he's able to stay healthy, he's one of the best to do it in the league. This year he was able to do so. So it's hard to argue there, but I just wanted to quickly go back and touch on your comments about Marlon. And I kind of, it's an argument I think that could be had, because I think Xavier Howard, the amount of interceptions he's able to put up this year, it's kind of hard to unseat him. And when you hear the name Jalen Ramsey, because he was the other All-Pro, it's hard to argue with that. But I'll say this. I mean, 10 interceptions for Xavier Howard. Okay, I'll give you that, and he also had 51 combined tackles. So I'll give you him. But when I look at Marlon Humphrey, he had 82 tackles this year, Jimmy. He had 82. Okay, he did only have the one interception, but then he had 8 forced fumbles to go along with that. When I look over at Jalen Ramsey's year, he had just 44 combined tackles, so nearly half of the tackles Marlon had. He still only had 1 interception, equal with Marlon, and he had 0 forced fumbles this year compared to 8 from Marlon.
I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't know the stats were that lopsided. Well, then why the heck isn't Marlon in there?
I mean, I guess what you point to is allowed catches and stuff like that. But when Marlon was the last remaining corner and asked to jump around to all the best players on the opposing team, so of course he got some targets. But I mean, to me, it's just it's an argument I think that needs to be had. I mean, there's no doubt that you look at the numbers when he matches up with like a DeAndre Hopkins. I'm talking about Jalen Ramsey. When he matches up with DeAndre Hopkins, his productivity is cut severely. So there's no doubt that he prevents guys from getting catches and target, which is the main job of a corner. But I don't think you can discount all that Marlon brings to defending the run. That ability to punch the ball out when a guy is maybe hung up in a couple tacklers and trying to fight for extra yards, that ability to come in and knock that ball free and totally change the game from a turnover perspective. I think just it shouldn't go unnoticed. If somebody wants to argue with me about Jalen, that's fine. I think you definitely have a leg to stand on, but I think the argument for Marlon is quite strong as well.
Yeah, I think that if Marlon maybe did as much talking as Jalen, he might be up there as well. But look, he got paid just about as much as Marlon did and didn't have to, or he got paid just about as much as Jalen did and didn't have to, he didn't put the altar of his, and not at the altar of his team, right?
Yeah.
So, no. Are there any other snubs that we're missing, or at least conversations, like you said, that need to be had about any other players?
I mean, I was surprised to see that the fullback is now removed from the All-Pro, because I kind of thought we could pencil Pat Ricard in every year for that.
Yeah, no, they should just put Dancing Bear in as a position, so that we don't have to name the fullback, but every team could have a Dancing Bear, whether it's a tight end, whether it's an extra lineman, whether it's a fullback, whatever, right? Yeah. But Patrick would absolutely be that. And I hope that there's some sort of contingency in his contract, that because a lot of these guys have All-Pro incentives and stuff like that, to say, hey, I can't make an All-Pro.
Yeah.
So you better give me more money for the Pro Bowl. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think really going forward, his only competition in that category is going to be Kyle Juszczyk, former Raven, who now I believe is saying he's going to test free agency and possibly leave San Francisco. And wow, that would be interesting, because I'm not sure of a team that could get more out of a guy like Kyle Juszczyk than San Francisco in the way they can use him. But
just come on back. Just come on back. We'll throw you in the tight end rotation.
I mean, yeah, it wouldn't be bad. I don't know if I would trade Pat Ricard after what he brings.
No, I mean
team.
Like in free agency.
Right. Yeah. I mean, no, I get that, but then you'd have to have 2 fullbacks on the roster, and most teams don't even have one. So that would be certainly unique to the Ravens. But other than that, I don't really see it. I think Calais Campbell made the Pro Bowl. More on name, and not to say he had a bad year, but he definitely, by his standards, had a down year,
right?
When you compare it to his history. So, yeah, and then Matt Judon, I don't know how you could put him in over some of these guys. Myles Garrett and TJ Watt just had phenomenal years. So, yeah, I think that's it. But let us know if you guys think we missed a guy. Let us know what you think on our arguments for Marlon Humphrey as well as Justin Tucker. And yeah, let us know what you think, and we'll talk soon. See ya.
See ya.